What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Trent Shelton. Trent is a former NFL wide receiver that is now considered one of the most impactful speakers of this generation. He reaches over 60 million people weekly through hard-hitting videos and unprecedented engagement. Though based in Fort Worth, Texas with his wife and 2 children, Trent connects with people all over the world. Trent is leading a generation into becoming their greatest you through his podcast, through speaking on stages, through his book, and so much more. If you don't know who Trent already is, you're about to find out, and I think you guys are absolutely going to love this conversation. Now, before we get there, I want to remind you guys that tickets for Growth Now Movement Live are on sale right now with an already incredible lineup of speakers, including one more still to be announced, 15 amazing movement makers, incredible entertainment. It is truly going to be a day-and-a-half-long rock concert for individuals who are looking to level up in all areas of their life. So if that's you, head over to gnmlive.com right now and grab your tickets because prices are going up soon, and I cannot wait to see you there. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with the impactful Trent Shelton. Trent, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, brother. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited about this conversation, man. You know, when my dad joined Facebook and then immediately started sharing out your videos, I was like, I got to get this guy on my show because you see the amount of people that you touch and impact with your message. And like I said, if my dad knows about it, you're doing something right, man. And,
that's dope, man. So you say your dad started sharing the videos? That's cool.
Yeah, dude. I was like, how does he even, and I knew who you were before that, but I was like, how does he even know who this guy is? And here he is just obsessed. And I told him that I got connected to you and he lost his mind. And he doesn't even know how to listen to podcasts. So he's like, well, show me again how to do it when he comes on the show. I was like, I'll show you, Dad. I'll show you.
Someone said what's up, and I appreciate him.
I will, man, for sure. But you know, when I look at the trajectory of your life, you know, you grew up dreaming to be in the NFL. You made it to the NFL. And you were in the NFL for what, 4 years?
About 3.5, yeah.
Okay. So which is the average lifespan of an NFL player, which is crazy to think about. But now you're known for this entirely different thing. You know, speaking on stages, impacting the world through your words on the internet and your videos and all that stuff. How does somebody even begin to make that transition? Because I think in this life, there's so many people that are in constant transition. So how does that even look for you? And how does that look for other people?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things is that you have to come to grips with something is over. And I think, you know, acceptance is power. You know, acceptance can be a prison or it can be your power. And what I mean by that is sometimes we don't accept things are done. And so for me, for a while, I would say for about three years, I was trying to play arena football, and I knew I was playing that to get back to the NFL, but deep down inside, I knew that my chances were very slim on getting back. I just, like you said, NFL, not for long, 3 years. That's all you really have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And so I was afraid though to let go because it's like, you know, who am I without this? So once I finally accepted it, it was like, hey, it's done. You know, there's no going back to that. Let me figure out the next chapter of my life. That's when things started to open up. Once I let go, the thing I like to illustrate with people is like, if you're holding on to something like so tight, it's hard for that other thing to into your hands if you're holding on. So you got to let go. And it's scary. It's fearful, especially when you're doing something that you've never done before and you're not doing what you're used to doing. But it was the greatest decision I made. I can literally tell you within a year of me saying like I'm done pursuing football, I mean, I was already, you know, speaking on stages and things like that. So it just took me letting go to fully focus on this.
That's crazy. So what did that look like to be able to build this entire new brand for yourself? I'm sure you had some followers from back in the NFL days, but you look at it now and you're like, this is not related to the football thing at all. How does that even begin?
Yeah, it's funny because some people think that, right? It's like, oh, you play in the NFL. It's like, man, nobody really knew me in the NFL. Like, I mean, I have maybe some people that still like are aware, but maybe from Baylor, but definitely not the NFL. And so for me, it was the rehab process was me working on myself. So when I started this, I didn't start with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to be a speaker or I'm going to build this brand. Literally, RehabTime, which is my organization, was for me. Like, that was just my word to be like, okay, it's time to, read books. It's time to really rehab my life. And so in doing that, I had some opportunities. And it's just crazy how like everything works together. Like, when I look back now, I realize how much football wasn't just like, it wasn't my final destination, but really it was a very important vehicle because of the connections that I made. So the main connection was a guy named Jonathan Evans. He's actually a chaplain for the Cowboys now, but I played at Baylor with him, and I played at Washington briefly, and we were roommates, and obviously we knew each other from Baylor.
Yeah.
And to make a long story short, he saw in me what I didn't see in myself. He was like, man, Trent, when I talk to you, he's like, you don't really talk much like publicly, but when I talk to you privately, it's like, man, like my dad's a pastor, my sister's in this space, like you have a gift. And he's like, I want you to speak on the stage. And it was, 5,000, 4,000 kids, seemed like 20,000 kids, which I didn't want to do. Try to talk myself out of it. I'm like, bro, I'm not a speaker. Like, that's not me.
And 5,000 people is a massive amount of people. Oh. And that being your first thing, that's
exactly what I told him. I was like, man, like I would rather start like small, build up my confidence, because I don't want to like bomb this and like it just takes away my whole confidence. And really that's what happened. Like I prepared the whole night before and I got on stage and I froze up, but it was in that moment where I was like, man, just come from the realest place you can come from. Because, with kids, you have to do that, or they'll pick you apart. And it was that moment that I decided to like pursue it. I just had a feeling like this was it. I really can't, put it into words, but it was just a feeling like this is what you're created to do. And from that moment on, I just pursued it by, making videos and content, and working on my own life was the most important thing, especially, starting out.
Yeah. When you talk about rehab time and getting better and sharpening the brain and your body and your mind and all that stuff, where did that come from in your life? As far as, understanding that we have to level up our mind in order to reach our goals, where did that even come from?
Yeah. I think that seed was planted in sports. Sports, the higher you go, the more it's about, your mentality. You see the greats, Peyton Mannings and Tom Brady's. Physically, Tom Brady, I saw him running the other day. I was like, physically, he's not, but mentally, he's a beast, and he beat me mentally. And so I realized that, just from that aspect to my life, I was like, yeah, I could have all the talent in the world or all these, all these traits. But if I don't strengthen this, then I'm not going to be able to carry through, because this is what carries you through when times are hard. We talk about motivation, inspiration. I got a question the other day. It's like, how do you stay motivated? And I was like, well, I have systems where it helps me. But like today I ran 6 miles. I wasn't motivated to run it, but I'm loyal to my routines. And so it's building that mindset to be able to push you through those hard times. And I think football really taught me that, just dealing with adversity. You're down by, 30 points. I remember in college, we were down by 20 some points in the fourth quarter, and just still believing that we were going to win. And actually we won. So just knowing that the game is never over until, till your time is up.
Yeah. And, talking about the guy with that mindset, Tom Brady is that guy. I live near Philadelphia, and so we hate Tom Brady. We hate the Patriots and all that stuff. And I don't really care. I semi-root for them because the world roots against them. And I'm like, I just kind of want to see this guy go until he's 50-something and prove that mindset is so important to everything that we do in our life. And, you earlier talked about routines, and, I didn't want to run 6 miles, but it's part of my routine. So I went out and did it. What do you say to people who understand the power of routines, but are currently in bad routines? And how do you make that shift and begin to put better routines into your life?
Yeah, well, again, you have to be real with yourself and straight up with yourself and honest. And you have to say, okay, if I keep doing this, where is this going to lead my life? That's the thing that, I can't stand so much, because I was this person like complaining about things that you're responsible for, complaining about things that you're not willing to change. And so you have to forward think and say, okay, if I keep doing this, where is this going to lead me? And at the end of the day, you have to care enough about your life to actually make that change. And sometimes it's, for me, it was my kids that really made me look at myself and like, okay, you're an example now. So how you operate in life is going to be their foundation. So you have a choice. Like either you can show them, because I'm big on living it. I can tell Tristan, my son, all the things in the world, but if he sees me not doing it, he's going to believe that. So I'm always conscious of that. So I'll tell a person, go it depends where you're at mindset wise. Most people are living a limited mindset, meaning that when they hear this podcast, they're going to think about all the reasons why they can't. Easier said than done is the greatest excuse people use all the time. It's like everything in the world is, right? If you're in that mindset, I challenge you to challenge yourself, right? To prove yourself wrong. So if you feel like you can't do something, go challenge yourself. What's the worst that could happen? But I guarantee in you challenging yourself, you're going to progress. And the beautiful thing about life is every single day you have a chance to progress even more. And then you'll get to a point where you start believing in yourself even more. And so I was at that point in my life, probably 2010, 2011, where I lived in that limited mindset. My perspective was my prison. Like I was negative, like I can't. And now you fast forward to now, for me, it's like, okay, like what can't I do? It's only impossible because I never tried it. And so let me go try to prove myself wrong or prove myself right. So you got to go out there and do it.
Yeah, dude, I love that. And, I talk a lot on this show when I do have solo episodes along with these interviews. And I talk a lot about how I live in the power of 1%. And my goal is to grow 1% every single day. Like you said, push yourself out of your comfort zone a tiny bit, whether it's improving your relationships, your health, your business, whatever the case may be, just push a little bit every single day. It's kind of what you were just talking about, right? When you get out of your comfort zone, you start to grow, even if you don't reach the goals that you're setting for yourself that day or that month or that year. And I find that super intriguing. So what is next for you? How are you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone now? Because, I look at what you've done and what you've built and I go, wow, man, 11 million followers on Facebook, almost 2 million on Instagram. I don't even know how many on YouTube and all the other things that are following. They say that if you collect yours, you have over 100 million followers across the globe, which is insane. And I look at that and I go, I think I'd be okay with that. And I don't know how. Now, again, I don't know how I'd feel when I got there, but how are you pushing yourself now to reach that next level? What's driving you?
Well, the thing that's driving me is that I know there's hearts out there that haven't heard my message. No matter, there's billions of people across the world. So there's somebody out there that has no idea who I am, no idea what any video I produce. So that always drives me every single day. And what always keeps me outside of my comfort zone is getting around people who are at where I want to be, who make me uncomfortable. And so whether it be guys like I see you got Ed or, Anthony or just different people in this space where I get around, I'm like, oh man, like, okay, I need to level up. So if it's fitness for me, I get around people who are in better shape than me, so I'm like, all right, I thought I was running fast. Now, okay, our business, get around people who are higher than me. And as the saying is, if you're, the best, if you're always around, if you're the best and that's your environment that you're always around, you're never going to grow. So I'm literally seeking out people. I call them growth environments that make me grow and make me feel like, not that I'm doing anything, because I'm always going to appreciate what I'm doing, but let me know that there's a next level, so don't settle. Because, I think the fear of settling came from me with football, because when I reached my highest peak, that's when I started to chill out. I stopped doing what it took to get me there. And a lot of times people's foundation for failure is success, because once they reach it, it's like, okay, cool. And so my thing is, I know there's people out there that need my message that never heard it. And then getting around people who always push me outside my comfort zone is key.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about getting in the right space and surrounding yourself with the right people, that's been imperative for me. When I started this podcast, I had no idea the people that I would end up surrounding myself with. You know, guys like Joel Marion, where you go to his house and it's like a freaking museum. You were there.
Yeah, Joel. Yeah.
Dude, it was so funny. I'll tell you the story really quick. I drove up. I rented a car. I flew into Tampa because I was speaking in Orlando the next day, and so I flew into Tampa to drive to his house, and I rented like a Toyota Corolla, because I was like, this is fine. And I pull up and I literally text Joel and I go, do you want me to park this car around back? Because parking in front of this house just isn't right. But I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with those people because of this podcast. So what do you say to people that might say, yeah, man, you have the access, you have the followers, so it's easy for you to get surrounded by those people. How do you get access to these people when you haven't quite built the platform yet?
Yeah, because I didn't once have access, right? So either you build something that is attractive for people, whatever that may be, you bring something to the table, or, bring value to people. That's the main key. I have people all the time that you would never know, but they get so much. Like I have a person today, I do run groups in Fort Worth. They're like, hey, I'm running today. Like, y'all want to run with me? Whoever wants to run, come show up. And not a lot of people take advantage of it, but few people do. And they literally get that access, right? I'm like, okay, come to this event. It's on me. And we build that network and that connection. So, whether it's serving at an event for somebody, whether it's, just asking somebody or finding, maybe looking at them and saying, hey, I think they probably need help with this. I could help them. and just going to serve. And I think that's the best way to get access to people in places that you've never been.
I love that. And there was so much power in you saying, I invite people to come run with me for free, and not many people take me up on that. Like, that's incredible, because if I lived in Fort Worth, I don't run. I don't want to run, but I'd be like, look, if I want access to this guy, if I want to learn from him, and if I want him potentially in my circle, I'm going to show up. And people are so afraid to show up sometimes.
Yeah.
They're so afraid, whether it's because of judgment or potential failure or even potential success. What do you say to people that when they approach you and go, you know what, man, I'm just afraid. I'm just afraid to step into what I think my purpose is. How do they kind of break through those barriers?
Yeah, so I'm a big leverage guy. I like to use leverage tactics on people because it works for me. You know, I was with my son the other day. We actually recorded a video. People would see it, but we're actually in the cemetery. And I told him, I said, man, hey, don't be afraid to die. Like, be afraid to not live. And same thing, don't be afraid to fail, man. Be afraid of not reaching your truest potential. Like, I'm more afraid of that, to get to the end of my life. So I was like, look around, man. I told Tristan, I said, look around. There's so many people I can guarantee that's in this place that have incompletions, that's in this place that never went for it. I mean, the number one human regret when people are about to die is basically, I wish I would have lived more for my life, more for myself in a positive way, and went for it. And so I tell people, like, you got to break through that. And fear is not real. I mean, we know false evidence appearing real quote that they have, but it's like, seriously, like, on the other side of fear is everything that you want. And the reason why you won't go through it is that limiting belief that you're saying it's going to happen. Like, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to, people are going to judge me. You know what? You might fail. Everybody you look up to has failed. I fail on the daily. Like, if I'm not failing, I'm not trying, period. So I'm trying to fail. I'm trying to push myself. And then also on the same token, it's like, everybody has these same struggles. So I think so many times we isolate ourselves and we just think that we're the only ones going through it. But anybody you look up to goes through it, and so, yeah, just go for it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You end up in the same place that you're at. But even if that happens, you're still going to have a lesson and grow mentally that'll help you push through.
Yeah, and I think when people – I'm kind of overcoming a cold here. I think people look at you and they go, it's easy for him to be positive. He's successful. He speaks all over the world. People follow him. They love his stuff. Everything he launches, the book, and now soon to the podcast, which is actually tomorrow as of this recording. And we'll get to that in a second. But people are like, it's easy for him to stay positive. But I think the reality is we don't realize that we still go through things, even though we're living this dream life that we've created. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, something you're going through now or recently where you're like, there was a moment of like, I just want to tap out. And how did you talk yourself out of it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a human being, we all go through things. And I try my best to shed light because I know there's people who look at me in that space. Like, oh, that's easy. You don't go through anything. So as much as I can, I'm trying to share stuff. Like, even my content, like, where do you think my content comes from? It comes from a personal place. Yeah. And so, just overwhelmed. Like this year, I had a new daughter on the way. And as my new daughter is here, well, she's here now, like nothing else slows down. I'm speaking, I'm doing all these things. As you say, like I'm having a book release, like so much stuff that people don't understand. But I take a step back, I protect my peace, and I find appreciation in it. Like, I think that's the key to anything. Appreciation is the first step to elevation. So just appreciate even the hard time. There's always someone who wishes they were in your position. That's what I think about. And I was like, even if I backtrack to 2009, I was praying for this. Like, I would have been doing backflips, be like, what? You stressed because of this? Yeah. Like, don't forget when you were stressed because of this back time. So I think back on that, and I would tell people, just focus on the appreciation with it. And for me, also having, outlets, people to talk to, and people I can get coached by, or mentor, or friends that I could share these things, because the more you keep things inside, suppression leads to depression. So I'm always trying to open up, let it go, and just deal with it and move on with my life.
Yeah. And so, I love hearing all this. And like you said, you go through these seasons. My daughter's on the way as I'm releasing a book, and now she's here, and now I'm releasing a podcast, and my personal life isn't slowing down, or my business life isn't slowing down as my personal life is even getting crazier. And it's so true, right? So how do you navigate these seasons for yourself as far as like knowing what's next in the trajectory of the Trent Shelton growth and everything that you're doing? Because it's interesting. Like part of my growth has been a little bit planned out, but a little bit like, okay, this kind of came along and now that makes sense. So how are you navigating all that? Because I can't even imagine the amount of options and offers are being thrown your way.
Yeah. So I'm always, staying loyal to my principles a lot. Like my principles make decisions for me, and I'm a person of peace. Like I'm at a point in my life where, peace makes a decision. That doesn't mean that I don't put myself in, moments. Of course, when you're growing, it's uncomfortable at times, but I'm always thinking about, okay, is this going to bring more peace to my life? I'm even if it seems like a great opportunity, a great gain, if I know in the long run it's going to bring more stress to my life, I'm not going to do it. And so I'm always focused every year on something, right? So whether it's a podcast, okay, that's there. Whether it's, okay, I want to grow my speaking career this year, that's there. Okay, I want to, like last year was my health. That was my big thing. I wanted to focus on my health because I know I needed more energy. And so I don't like planning things out, like as far as like 10 years. I have obviously like destinations in my mind, but if you would have asked me 10 years ago would I be here, it would be absolutely not.
You'd be in the NFL, right?
It would be a different place. So, I just try to, maybe focus a few months out, half a year out, things that I definitely want to accomplish. And like you said, I mean, so many things come that I couldn't even plan for that kind of changes that course and direction. So I'm always about adjusting.
That's so refreshing to hear, because that's kind of how I look at things. Like, I started the podcast 3.5 years ago, not knowing what it would be. And then, that launched Growth Now Movement Live naturally, which happened last year for the first time. And people were like, you've done your event. What's next? I'm like, Growth Now Movement Live 2? Like, just that now it's the next year of like, okay, let's double it in size. Let's get an incredible speaker lineup again. Let's do all these things. And I have the big vision, right, of where I end up wanting to be, but it's really about those small, integral little things in between that's going to get me there. And so who knows? I mean, podcasting might not even be a platform in 10 years, right? It's going to be, but it might not be. And so it's kind of interesting to be able to kind of map that out, but still know that, like, look, one step at a time. So what is next for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the podcast, that's the big focus for me. And I've done tours before. I've done a lot of my own events, but next year we're doing my first just annual event. Like I'm not going to do, like I did like 32 city tours, and that was part of me burning out in 2015. Like I was like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just, it was too much. It was beautiful to meet everybody, and that energy on stage is nothing like it, but it was a lot, especially with me having kids and a wife, all these things. And so, the podcast is the main focus. I have another book coming out next year, so that's going to be the main focus. And the podcast is called Straight Up. The book is called Straight Up too. So that's my focus, and the RehabTime event. And I'll be on some other stages with some people next year. So just continue to grow the brand.
That's awesome, man. So what does your live event look like in your head? Have you started the planning process yet?
Yeah, pretty somewhat of it. I'm just trying to, if I want multiple speakers or not, I'm still dealing with that. I probably have a few friends that are there. But I'm very performing arts type of guy. So like my past events, it would bring moods, right? I would take you on a journey. It wouldn't just me, speak on stage, me get off the stage. Literally, we'll have music. We'll have, it'll be not choreography, cinematic dancers, just all of that in one. So it's an experience. And so I'm still trying to map exactly what that looks like, but it'll be an experience where, it'll be a few days worth. That's the hard part, because my events in the past were like 4 hours long. So I want to at least do 2 days. So we're trying to map that all out, how that looks.
Yeah, man. It's so interesting to hear somebody else kind of go through that and kind of your vision. Because, last year my event was a day. This year it's a day and a half. And even just adding an extra half a day logistically is just crazy. And so, and I have 7 speakers and 15 other people that'll be on the stage throughout the thing. And like, it's just great. And I have dancers that actually dance the speakers down to the stage. And so it's really kind of like a rock concert wrapped up into motivation and all these other things. And it's really been a journey, and I love hearing other people's visions and ideas. And, I'm excited to see where that goes. And I'd love to obviously attend and check it out and be a part of it. It sounds amazing. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast. So one thing I've realized is when you get onto a podcast, when you talk about other podcasts, all it does is drive traffic, right? And so let's talk a little bit about your vision for yours, because I think we're living in a space now where the interview, it's flooded. Everybody's doing it. And so what are you doing? What's your vision? And what are you releasing here come this week?
Yeah. So this week, my whole vision with the podcast is, I guess no pun, just being straight up about every and anything. I think that's why people come to me for. That's why people, bring me on stages to speak, just to be real and just straight to the point. And that's what the podcast is about. I mean, if you like my videos, if you like me on stage, it's just that times 10, and actually bringing a little bit more of my personality out. I can tell some stories in a longer format. And so that's going to be great, man. Cause I was the same way. Like, I mean, I love interviews, but just trying to get people, interviewed while I'm doing all this other stuff. I'm like, And I talk to some of my friends in the space. I'm like, nah, that's not my personality. I can't do it. So I was like, let me do this, and then we'll figure it out. I want to definitely see how this goes, and then I want to listen to my audience. I'm a big person who always listens to his audience and see what they want, see what I can do. So I'm sure to be a lot of creative stuff down the line. But my first episode, I'm talking about just kind of my story and the rehab process, which is 3 R's: reality, release, and repair, that I operate from, which is like an hour long. But after that, it's like 30 and 45 minutes. So
nice. Dude, that sounds amazing. So, I'm intrigued by the process of what people consider success is, and then the things they do to create that success. So one question I ask every single person I interview is, what is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Yeah. So my definition of success at this point in my life is peace. Peace for myself, peace for my family. I think that's what we all are after in some way. I think that's the root thing that we all want, whether it's through finances, whether it's through whatever. We want to just have peace in our soul. And so for me, I have a process. It's the 4 A's that I talk about so much, but just waking up with appreciation is the main thing, gratitude, and protecting my peace. And that's just me getting out in nature, me taking time for myself, me being grateful. And I used to think that was corny, just to be honest. Like, I'm not doing that stuff. But I realized how much it helps me when I come back to my world, whatever that is, whether it's my family, whether it's online. Like, I'm just a better individual. That's why, like, before this interview, I went to go my run out in trails, and I'm just in a better space when I show up. And so I always prioritize that. And it's something that I preach on everybody. I'm like, hey, man, protect your peace, protect your peace. Like, take care of yourself. Because if you don't, you end up being empty and drained at some point.
Yeah, dude, I love all that stuff, man. So then I wrap up with the same question on every single episode. But before we get there, why don't we just go to all the important stuff for you? Where do people find you if they're not listening and paying attention already? What's all the good stuff?
So website is TrentShelton.com. And you just put in my name, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Trent Shelton, I'll pop up. Like I said, my podcast is called Straight Up with Trent Shelton. And then my book that's out right now, anywhere you can buy books, is called The Greatest You. So
awesome, man. I love it. I love all that stuff. So like I said, I wrap up every single interview with this one question. And since this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement, the question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
My biggest moment of growth, man, there's so many, but the one that just pops up has to be just my transition of, hitting rock bottom, losing the NFL, losing what I thought was everything in my life, and being able to rebuild it from there. It's crazy because a lot of times when we lose what we think is our everything, we think our life is over. But really, in reality, it could be your life is really just beginning. Certain things have to end so better things can begin. And that's what happened for me. So when I look back at that time where I hated, I was like, man, this storm sucks. But that storm was necessary for my growth. Like, the worst storm of my life grew my life the most. So I'm grateful for it.
Dude, I love it. Trent, thank you so much, man, for not only just coming on and taking the time to share your message with my audience, but just for doing what you do to change the world, man. You're inspiring countless people, and it's just going to continue to grow because I can see and feel the passion in your heart. It's not about the count. It's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's about the impact, man. And I feel it, and I really, really do. And I can't wait to see where you go in the future. I mean, it's going to be insane, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you for having me and sharing your platform, man. Let's get it.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.